Let's be honest. The most painful feeling a man can sit with isn't rejection. It's confusion. It's that quiet moment when you realize you're doing everything right, being polite, showing interest, being available, saying the right things, and yet she feels distant, cold, unmoved. That silence messes with your head far more than a clear no ever could, because underneath it all you're re-asking a question you don't say out loud. How does desire actually begin? Not attraction on paper, not logic, not effort, but real desire. Here's the truth, most men are never told, and it needs to be heard without flinching. Desire is not created by convincing, it isn't negotiated, and it's never rewarded for good behavior. Desire is emotional motion, and if she isn't interested right now, it's not because you lack value, it's because the energy you're bringing is static. Women don't fall for words first, they fall for states. The way you carry yourself into a room, the emotional weather that shifts when you speak, the subtle sense that something is already happening around you, that doesn't need her approval to exist. That's why men who try less often spark more interest. They aren't trying to win, they're already moving somewhere, and she's deciding whether she wants to join. When a woman feels no desire, it's often because she already knows your emotional destination. You're predictable, safe in the wrong way. Your interest is obvious, your availability constant, your reactions familiar. There's no tension, no uncertainty, and without emotional tension, desire goes dormant. This doesn't mean becoming cold or cruel. That's a weak imitation. Real attraction begins when you stop orienting your inner world around her response. When your happiness doesn't rise and fall based on how quickly she texts back. When your tone says you enjoy her, but you don't need her to feel complete. That emotional independence is rare, and rarity is magnetic. Here's something uncomfortable but powerful. Women are drawn to men who feel slightly out of reach emotionally, not because they wanna buy lovely, but because their life is already in motion, their standards already set, their direction already chosen. When she senses that, curiosity wakes up, and curiosity is the doorway to desire. If she's not interested right now, the worst move you can make is to push harder. Pressure suffocates attraction. Desire needs space to breathe. When you pull your focus back onto your mission, your body, your growth, your purpose, something shifts. You stop silently asking for permission to be wanted, and that alone changes how you're perceived. A woman doesn't want to be your emotional oxygen. She wants to feel something when she's near you: challenge, intrigue, groundedness, depth. Those emotions don't come from chasing, they come from presence, from knowing who you are without needing validation. When you stop trying to spark desire, you often become the spark. Not because she owes you interest, but because you've become a man whose energy invites choice, not obligation. That's where real attraction begins. Not in tactics or tricks, but in the quiet confidence of a man who knows his worth, even when no one is clapping yet. Most men misunderstand why attraction fades or never starts. They think interest is a switch you flip with the right sentence, the right compliment, the right timing. But attraction doesn't work like that. It's more like gravity. You don't chase gravity. You become heavy enough that things start moving toward you. When a woman says she's not interested, what she usually means is that nothing inside her is being activated. She doesn't feel unsafe, but she also doesn't feel awake. And comfort without stimulation creates emotional sleep. One truth that stings at first is that over-explaining kills desire. When you justify your intentions, clarify your feelings too early, or reassure her before she asks, you aren't showing presence, you're leaking power. You're signaling that her approval sits at the center of your emotional universe, and desire cannot grow where imbalance lives. Women respond to emotional leadership, not control but direction. When you speak, your words need to move somewhere. When you make plans, they should feel like invitations, not negotiations. Emotional leadership is subtle, and it's felt before it's understood. Think about the men women talk about when no one's around. It's rarely the one who chased the hardest. It's the one who made her feel something she couldn't quite explain: slight tension, playful challenge, calm certainty. He wasn't trying to impress. He was expressing, and expression is always more attractive than performance. If she's not interested, one of the fastest ways to shift the dynamic is to stop trying to be liked and start being felt. That means slowing down, allowing silence, saying less but meaning more, and letting her wonder instead of filling every gap with reassurance. Mystery isn't about hiding, it's about depth. When your life has layers, when your emotions aren't dumped all at once, when your attention is selective, she senses that knowing you would take time, and the human mind values what it can't instantly consume. Desire often begins after restraint. When you don't immediately pursue and don't overinvest before she earns access to your inner world, you communicate and self-respect is contagious. This is why men who pull back calmly, without bitterness or games, often see interest rise. Not because distance is a trick, but because it restores polarity. It reintroduces uncertainty, and uncertainty paired with emotional safety creates intrigue. You don't spark desire by proving your worth. You spark it by living as if your worth is already assumed, by allowing discovery instead of seeking approval. There's a moment every woman feels before desire shows up, and most men miss it. It is the moment she pauses internally and thinks that this man is different from what she expected. That pause is where attraction is born. Not when you agree with her or impress her, but when you subtly disrupt her assumptions without threatening her sense of safety. Constant agreement doesn't create attraction. It removes contrast. And without contrast, there is no spark. When you stop reacting and start responding, everything changes. Reaction is emotional dependence. Response is emotional control. When she tests you with distance or indifference and you remain grounded, playful, and unbothered, you communicate strength without saying a word. Women don't chase excitement alone. They chase emotional safety inside excitement, and that combination is rare. If she's not interested, one of the most powerful moves you can make is to stop overinvesting emotionally, not to punish her, but to protect your center. Giving energy where it hasn't been earned communicates weak boundaries, and weak boundaries lower perceived value no matter how kind your intentions are. Desire grows when your attention is selective, when you observe before you invest, when you choose instead of audition. Women often become interested after they feel seen, not chased. When you listen without fixing, notice without performing, and reflect instead of impressing, emotional intimacy begins to form. But intimacy requires pacing, silence, timing. It requires allowing her to lean in instead of pulling her closer. If you want to spark desire, you must become a man who doesn't need it to feel whole. When your identity isn't anchored to her response, attraction has room to emerge naturally. And even if she never becomes interested, you still win because you've built self-respect, emotional strength, and clarity. Those traits don't just attract women. They build men. Desire can't be forced. It's allowed. It appears when you become the kind of presence that invites it. Wanting someone more than they want, you create imbalance. And imbalance is felt instantly, even when it's never spoken. The shift is internal, not external. Stop asking how to make her want you, and start asking whether you're reliving in a way that makes you respect yourself. Desire grows when a woman feels she has to qualify herself to you, not through manipulation, but through standards. When you know what you value and what you won't tolerate, you stop auditioning and start observing. Calm confidence replaces urgency, and calm confidence is magnetic. Women are drawn to men who can walk away peacefully, not in ego or anger, but in self-respect. The paradox is this: the moment you stop trying to spark desire, you become more desirable. Your attention becomes a gift, not a plea. Your presence becomes an experience, not a transaction. Even if no woman responds differently tomorrow, this mindset is still worth everything because it gives you something no one can take: self-respect, alignment, and inner authority. You don't spark desire by chasing interest. You spark it by becoming a man whose life is already in motion with or without her. Women don't fall for men who ask to be chosen. They fall for men who are choosing a direction and inviting others to walk beside them. And that invitation feels powerful because it's optional, grounded, and real.